Hello all, hope you're doing well today. Today we are continuing our conversation in chapter 4. This is part 2, and we're talking specifically about the development of physical education and sport in the United States. Here we go. As we discussed previously, European countries have played a crucial role in shaping the way we approach physical education today in the United States. There are various systems of gymnastics that were developed to promote physical fitness and discipline. For example, the Swedish system emphasized calisthenics and corrective exercises, focusing on health and posture, while the German system was more about military-style drills and strength training. These systems laid the groundwork for modern physical education philosophies, which see exercise not as just physical activity, but as an important part of overall personal development and well-being. When we look to ancient cultures, we see a very different but equal influence. Yoga originated from India and introduced the idea that physical practice could be a pathway to mental clarity and spiritual growth. It's not just about the body, but about achieving balance between the mind and spirit as well. Similarly, martial arts from countries like China, Japan, and Korea emphasize discipline, respect, and the integration of mind, body, and spirit. These traditions teach that physical training can enhance mental focus and spiritual awareness. The relationship between the mind, body, and spirit is a central theme in these Asian philosophies, something that many Western approaches have only recently started to fully embrace. In the early days, colonists were mainly focused on survival. Their daily efforts were centered around farming, building homes, and securing food, basic needs that left little time or energy for play or recreation. Despite this, colonists brought with them various sports and games from their native countries, hoping to keep some sense of community and tradition alive in the New World. Sports like cricket, horse racing, and folk games were played, especially in more settled areas. However, not everyone embraced these activities. The Puritans, who had a strong influence in many colonies, viewed play and recreational pursuits with suspicion. They often denounced games as frivolous or even sinful, believing that too much leisure distracted people from their religious duties. In the schools of the time, the focus was strictly on academics. Reading, writing, and arithmetic were priorities. Physical education, as we understand it today, was essentially non-existent and largely ignored in formal education. Charles Beck is widely credited with introducing the German gymnastic system developed by Frederick Jahn that we learned about earlier to the United States. In 1825, he implemented this structured program of physical conditioning at the Round Hill School for Boys in Northampton, Massachusetts. This marked the establishment of the first gymnasium and formal gymnastics program in the United States. The Round Hill School, modeled after a German gymnasium, aimed to educate the whole person, physically, intellectually, and morally. Although the school closed in 1834 due to financial difficulties and overwork on the part of its founder, Joseph Cogswell, it left a lasting legacy. The Round Hill philosophy influenced educators like William Augustus Muhlenberg, who established model schools on Long Island in 1828 and 1836. Muhlenberg's protégés went on to found prominent institutions such as St. James School in Maryland and St. Paul's School in New Hampshire, and the Shattuck and St. Mary's schools in Minnesota. Though Muhlenberg's schools were more enduring, the holistic education approach championed by Cogswell, Bancroft, and Beck set a strong foundation for future physical education programs in America. Following in Beck's footsteps, Charles Follen introduced gymnastics to higher education. In 1826, he established and led exercise classes at Harvard University using the German system. With support from Beck, Follen opened and equipped the first college gymnasium in the United States that same year. Follen was not only an advocate for the integration of physical activity in academics, but also gave public demonstrations of gymnastics inspired by Father Jahn. That same year, at the request of a group in Boston, he founded the city's first public gymnasium and served as its superintendent. Although he resigned from this role in 1827, his efforts paved the way for future leaders like Francis Lieber. Follen helped establish the idea that physical training was essential to a complete and balanced college education. Now, Catherine Beecher was a pioneer advocate for women's physical education in the 19th century. At the Hartford Female Seminary during the 1820s, she developed a calisthenic program that incorporated Swedish gymnastics and was performed to music. Unlike many male-dominated gymnastic systems, Beecher's approach emphasized grace, posture, and overall health rather than competition or physical strength. Beecher believed public schools had a responsibility to support not just academic development, but also the moral and physical well-being of students. She promoted teacher training programs and emphasized the social value of education, believing that teaching was as important, if not more so, than law or medicine. She also advocated for daily physical activity and reading aloud as key tools for moral development. A vocal critic of restrictive corsets and unhealthy eating habits, Beecher believed physical education was essential to women's long-term health and empowerment. Now, little bonus here, Henry Ward Beecher, Catherine's younger brother, was a prominent clergyman, a social reformer, and a public speaker. Though not a physical educator himself, he played a significant role in shifting public attitudes about physical activity. Beecher viewed play and recreation not as frivolous or sinful as many Puritan influential leaders did, but as essential to moral, spiritual, and physical development. His beliefs aligned with the muscular Christianity movement, which we talked about earlier, which emphasized the connection between physical strength, moral integrity, and Christian values. Beecher's advocacy helped popularize the idea that physical education was not only acceptable, but necessary for a well-rounded, virtuous life. His views contributed to the growing support for youth sports, exercise, and recreation as tools for character development and social reform. Let's take a look at some key milestones that shaped American sports and physical activity in the 19th century. Often referred to as America's pastime, baseball is believed to have been invented around 1839. While the exact origins are debated, it quickly gained traction across the country. It wasn't just a game, it became a symbol of American identity, community, and leisure, especially as cities grew and industrialization changed daily life. Now, the 1851 First National Turnfest in Philadelphia was an event that was a major celebration hosted by German American Turnvereins, or gymnastics clubs. These clubs emphasized physical fitness, discipline, and cultural unity. The Turnfest was both a competition and a festival, promoting gymnastics as a way to build strong bodies and strong citizens. It also highlighted the influence of European systems, particularly German, on American physical education. Now, in 1852 was the first intercollegiate competition. Harvard and Yale took part in this first recorded intercollegiate sporting event, which was a crew or rowing race. This was a major turning point. It marked the beginning of organized college athletics, which would evolve into the major collegiate sports system we know today. Sports quickly became a core part of campus life, building school spirit and alumni engagement. And finally, throughout this period, in other sports like horse racing, foot races, and rowing were extremely popular. Gambling was common at these events, showing how sport and entertainment were closely linked with the economic and social culture of the time. These moments were not just about games, they were about identity, inclusion, and the growing role of sport in American society. One of the leaders in the Civil War period through 1900 is Dr. Diocletian Lewis. He was widely known as Dr. Dio Lewis and was a key figure in the early development of physical education in the United States. He was a passionate advocate for temperance, which is abstinence, and homeopathy and physical culture. Particularly, he was concerned about the lack of physical activity among women and children. Now, he left school at the age of 12 to work in a cotton factory and later in a tool manufacturing facility. He returned to school and began teaching at, get this, age 15. At 18, he founded a school in Ohio and expanded the curriculum to include subjects like algebra, geometry, Latin, and Greek. Now, the town was so impressed that they named it the Diocletian Institute in his honor. Unfortunately, an illness forced him to give up the school after a year. Now, he was trained under a physician at Auburn State Prison, and then he enrolled at Harvard Medical School, but left after completing due to financial hardship. He opened a medical practice in Port Byron and later Buffalo, New York, and became interested in homeopathy, earning a degree in the field of homeopathic hospital college from the Homeopathic Hospital College of Cleveland. And he launched a medical journal titled The Homeopathist. As far as his contributions to physical education, he developed a system of light gymnastics promoting gentle rhythmic exercises that were accessible to individuals of all ages and health levels. In 1861, he founded the Normal Institute for Physical Education in Boston, which was one of the first schools specifically designed to train physical education teachers. His approach emphasized inclusivity, health, and adaptability, making physical education more accessible, especially to women and children. Now, the Institute offered a 2-year program that trained students to develop and lead physical education programs in schools. And it played a foundational role in establishing physical education as a recognized field of study. The graduates of the Institute helped spread Lewis's health-focused, inclusive philosophy across the United States. His work directly influenced future institutions such as the Sargent School of Physical Education, which was founded by Dudley Allen Sargent in 1881. We'll talk about him coming up. So many of our leaders during this period of time, what you'll find are medical doctors of one specialty or another. Dr. Edward Hitchcock Jr. was a trailblazer himself in integrating science, health, and physical education into higher education. He was a graduate of Harvard Medical School, where he applied his medical training to the development of a structured, research-based approach to physical education. In 1861, Hitchcock returned to Amherst College as professor of hygiene and physical education, becoming the first formal collegiate physical educator in the United States. Although physical educators had been hired since the early 1820s, Hitchcock is credited with establishing the first comprehensive and systematic program at the college level. Hitchcock believed that strong physical health was essential for intellectual achievement, advocating that the body and mind should develop together. And so his program at Amherst was one of the first to combine physical training, health, education, and scientific inquiry. Activities were designed to be engaging both physically and mentally, helping students maintain lifelong health and productivity. Now, his program emphasized anthropometric measurement, which includes data collection on height, weight, chest girth, and strength. Many of the measurements that we do even now. These measurements were used to track progress and evaluate the impact of physical activity, making his program among the first to use empirical, data-driven methods in physical education. In 1885, Hitchcock became the first president of the Association for the Advancement of Physical Education, the organization now known as Shape America. His pioneering work laid the foundation for physical education as a recognized academic and professional discipline. His model influenced colleges and secondary schools across the United States and internationally, promoting a lasting connection between health science and physical activity. Dr. Dudley Allen Sargent was one of the most influential figures in shaping modern physical education in the late 19th and early 20th century. When he was a boy, Dudley Allen Sargent joined with some other high school boys in putting up horizontal bars and other apparatus at the high school grounds, and they started their own gymnastics club. They were additionally inspired by reports of exhibitions given at Bowdoin College, which was 60 miles away in Brunswick, and gave similar public exhibitions themselves at the town hall and in towns nearby. In 1869, he was invited by Bowdoin College to direct the gymnasium there, and 2 years later he entered the college as a student, from which he graduated in 1875, and in 1878 received the degree of medical doctor at Yale Medical School. During his time in the medical school, he was also an instructor in gymnastics at Yale College. After his graduation from Yale, he moved to New York City, where he conducted a private gymnasium for a year. He assessed the physical conditions of clients using a physical examination and adapted an exercise regimen on various pieces of exercise equipment accordingly. In 1879, he was appointed director of the Hemingway Gymnasium at Harvard University, where he implemented a scientific and individualized approach to physical training. Sargent expanded on the work of earlier pioneers like Edward Hitchcock by incorporating anthropometric measurements, such as height, weight, limb length, and strength capacity, to design his personalized conditioning program for each student. His system marked a significant shift toward tailoring physical education to individual needs and capabilities, rather than relying on a one-size-fits-all model. In 1881, Sargent founded the Sanatory Gymnasium in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where he trained future physical educators in his methodology. His work not only advanced physical education as a scientific discipline, but also helped lay the groundwork for fitness assessment and individualized training practices that are still in use today. A sanatory gymnasium refers to a gymnasium focused on health and physical well-being. The term combines sanatory, meaning promoting health, with gymnasium, and the Greek term for a place of physical exercise and training. Delphina Hanna was a groundbreaking leader in physical education and one of the most influential women in the field's early development. In 1885, she began teaching at Oberlin College, which was a progressive institution known for its inclusivity. She was hired by Adelia Field Johnson and was tasked with creating a physical education program for women. She also taught male students and faculty and served as director of the Women's Gymnasium. In 1903, Hanna made history as the first woman in the United States to hold the title of full professor of physical education. Under her leadership, Oberlin expanded its facilities, adding tennis courts, a basketball court, and a skating rink, and established one of the first 4-year bachelor degree programs in physical education for women. Her curriculum emphasized physical training, pedagogy, and health education, helping to legitimize physical education as a respected academic discipline. In 1905, she further enriched her program through a study tour of Germany and Sweden, where she explored European physical education models. Hanna taught at Oberlin College until 1920, and her influence reached far beyond the classroom. Many of her students became leaders in the field, including Luther Halsey Gulick, Fred Eugene Leonard, J.B. Nash, Jesse F. Williams, and Thomas D. Wood. If these names aren't familiar now, they will be, all of whom became fellows of the National Academy of Kinesiology. In 1931, Hanna was honored as one of the first fellows of the American Physical Education Association, recognizing her enduring legacy. Dr. George Fitz was a leading voice in integrating science and empirical research into physical education. He was a graduate of Harvard Medical School and believed that physical education should not only rely on tradition or anecdote, but rather be based on scientific principles, especially those rooted in physiology. In 1891, Fitz established the Department of Anatomy, Physiology, and Physical Training at Harvard University, where he emphasized the study of the body's response to exercise. The following year, he founded one of the first physiology laboratories dedicated to physical training. There, Fitz and his students conducted pioneering research on the physiological effects of physical activity, marking some of the earliest efforts to validate exercise through experimental data. Fitz's commitment to data-driven practice helped pave the way for the modern connection between physical education and exercise science. His legacy lives on in today's emphasis on evidence-based teaching, program design, and the collaboration between physical education and health sciences. Hartwig Nielsen was a key figure in promoting the Swedish system of gymnastics in the United States. A native of Norway and trained in Sweden, Nielsen believed strongly in the therapeutic and scientific benefits of Swedish gymnastics, which emphasized posture, controlled movements, and overall physical well-being. As a young man, Nielsen joined the Merchants Club, Singing Club, and the Gymnastics Club. He began teaching gymnastics in April 1875 and was the instructor of gymnastics in the Latin School of Drammen. He also taught at the gymnastics clubs of the cities of Drammen, Halmstad, and Kongsberg in Norway. Nielsen later became a teacher's assistant and the principal of Oslo Turnverein. Around 1879, he studied the German system of gymnastics in Dresden, Saxony, and he left Norway for the United States on January 26, 1883, and arrived in New York City on February 15, 1883. In March of 1883, he moved to Washington, D.C., where he visited the German Gymnastics Club for a few days after arriving. He obtained a position teaching a class of 14 women, and within a few weeks, he had 50 female students between the ages of 13 and 50 attending his classes. He also held classes at the Franklin School until the spring of 1885. In September of 1883, he opened a high school and an armory on East Street. And in 84, he held an exhibition at his high school with girls and boys performing Swedish gymnastics, wand exercises, dumbbells, fancy steps, Swedish folk dances, and games. This was the first time Swedish gymnastics and folk dances were officially exhibited in the United States. In September of 1883, he rented a 3-story building at 903 16th Street, which was 2 blocks from the White House, and named it the Swedish Health Institute. From there, he was thought to have introduced the study of Swedish gymnastics and Swedish massage to the United States. From 1891 to 1900, he served in a leadership role overseeing physical training for the Boston public school system. During that time, he was instrumental in the adoption of the Swedish system within public education. Now, his efforts helped standardize and professionalize school-based physical education and reflected a growing emphasis on systematic, health-oriented exercise. His influence contributed to a nationwide movement to move away from militaristic drills toward more holistic, medically informed approaches. Now, the Baron Nils Paasi was another major proponent of the Swedish system of gymnastics in America. He was a graduate of the Royal Gymnastics Central Institute in Stockholm. Paasi brought with him a deep knowledge of the Ling system of Swedish gymnastics. In 1889, Paasi played a leading role in founding the Boston Normal School of Gymnastics, which was an institute dedicated to training teachers in the Swedish method. He was also considered the most influential in introducing Swedish gymnastics to the United States. Now, he was born of nobility in Stockholm and graduated from the Royal Military School and completed 2 years of study at the Ling Royal Central Institute. He was a second lieutenant in the Swedish Army and a member of various athletic clubs and a winner of national Swedish skating contests. Following his graduation from the Ling School, while on a round-the-world tour, he married his wife, and after marriage he settled in Boston, where he hoped to interest physicians in Swedish medical gymnastics. Perhaps the most significant event for him and American physical education occurred 3 years after his arrival in Boston when he was introduced to wealthy philanthropist Mary Hemingway of Boston. Their meeting produced astonishing consequences for American physical education in a few short years. In 1888, Hemingway invited Posse to teach Swedish gymnastics to teachers who were volunteers. In 1889, Mary Hemingway scheduled and financed the famous Boston Conference with the intention of incorporating Swedish gymnastics into the school system. So, much interest was generated by the Boston Conference that the American Association of the Advancement of Physical Education, now AFERD, canceled its own convention and members attended the Boston Conference instead. Posse was a keynote presenter and representative for the Swedish gymnastics and generated much interest in the Swedish system at the conference. In 1889, Hemingway opened the Boston Normal School of Gymnastics with Posse as the only teacher and Amy Morris Homans as professor of physical education. By 1890, more than 200 teachers were trained in the Swedish system, and the Boston school system adopted Swedish gymnastics. Now, Posse worked at the Boston Normal School was short-lived. In 1890, he left, and in February, he and his wife opened the Posse Gymnasium, writing that since severing his connection, he had been able to propagate the system on a larger scale from a school of his own. And so it was his first school. It was a group of 8 students. Now, the Posse Gymnasium had 3 departments. It was pedagogy for teacher training, educational gymnastics for men, women, and children, and medical gymnastics for the treatment of illness. It was a 2-year course that was modeled after the Royal Central Institute curriculum, including both teacher training and medical gymnastics. A 3rd year, which was a postgraduate course, was also offered, and a high school diploma was a prerequisite for entry. So students were required to pass examinations in anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, and practical gymnastics for entrance to their senior year. And the school became a prominent center for physical education and laid the foundation for incorporating Swedish therapeutic exercises into the American schools and training programs. So Mary Tillson, which was Mary Hemingway, was born in New York City, the daughter of Mary and Thomas Tillson, who was a wealthy shipping merchant. She was educated in private schools, and in 1840 in New York City, she married a Harvard graduate, Edward Hemingway. He was a multi-millionaire Boston sea merchant and some 17 years older than she was. Now, Mary Hemingway was a Bostonian philanthropist and one of the most influential supporters of physical education in the late 19th century. She was a strong advocate for women's education and public health and championed the integration of Swedish gymnastics into American schools. Her vision and funding were instrumental in the establishment of the Boston Normal School of Gymnastics. Hemingway saw physical education as an essential component of educational reform and civic well-being. Her support for figures like Posse and her broader advocacy efforts helped ensure that physical education became more widely accepted and professionally taught across the country. In 1889, she and her assistant, Amy Morris Homans, organized and promoted a conference on physical training in a hall at MIT. Conference attendees included established national authorities, the Boston School Committee, local Boston College presidents, and physicians. Lectures spoke to the German, Swedish, and American amalgamation systems with over 2,000 attendees. Hemingway invited Journal Armstrong from Hampton Institute to attend, and ultimately, through her efforts promoting the Swedish system of physical culture, over 60,000 Boston school children took part in daily exercise. And in 1889, she established the Boston Normal School of Gymnastics under the appointed director, Amy Morris Homans. In 1892, there were 12 women graduates, the first of what would become hundreds of trained teachers. The school was dedicated to training women for the profession of teaching physical education in the Swedish system, not only for primary schools but also in colleges and universities at a time when very few women had positions in higher education. And there were, with physical training, the physical training was led by Claes and Buskey, with later additions of faculty from Harvard University, Harvard Medical School, and MIT to teach the science, chemistry, anatomy, and biology, as well as the theoretical courses. In addition to the Swedish system of physical culture, students also learned various physical games such as basketball and field hockey and dance training under Melvin Gilbert. And graduates moved on to teach at Smith College, Hampton Institute, Drexel Institute, Radcliffe, Wesley College, and YMCA's. By 1906, 369 students had graduated from the school before it was incorporated into Wesley College. A new gymnasium was built at Wesley College and named Mary Hemingway Hall. And recently, there's been a bronze relief sculpture portrait by the artist Anne Whitney of Hemingway that was found in the Wesley archives. Amy Morris Homans was a pioneering leader in the professionalization of physical education in the United States, especially for women. In 1889, she was appointed director of the Boston Normal School of Gymnastics, which was an institution founded to train physical education teachers in the Swedish system. Under Homan's leadership, the school became a national model for teacher preparation and significantly advanced the cause of women in physical education. She also played a major role in persuading the Boston public school system to adopt Swedish gymnastics, aligning physical training in public schools with the structured health-focused practices. Homans was deeply committed to the education of the whole person, a philosophy she helped implement in schools and teacher training programs nationwide. Now, Luther Gulick was a visionary in the field of physical education and public recreation. He played a central role in the YMCA International Training School in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he emphasized the importance of developing the mind, body, and spirit in harmony. To symbolize this philosophy, Gulick designed the iconic YMCA triangle logo, with each side representing one of these three elements. Gulick believed that physical activity was not just about fitness, it was a tool for character development, spiritual growth, and civic responsibility. In 1906, he helped form the Playground Association of America, which promoted the creation of safe and structured play spaces for children. This organization would evolve into today's National Recreation and Park Association. Gulick's impact extended far beyond gymnasium. He was also instrumental in shaping the early recreational movement and fostering a broader societal understanding of play, health, and community development. Now, William Anderson was a key figure in the formal organization of the physical education profession in the United States. He is best known for his instrumental role in founding the American Association for the Advancement of Physical Education in 1885, which later became Shape America, the nation's leading organization for health and physical educators. At the time, Anderson was serving as the director of physical training at Adelphi Academy in Brooklyn, New York. Recognizing the need for a professional body to support the growing field, Anderson brought together educators and leaders to establish a national organization dedicated to the advancement of physical education as both a discipline and a profession. His efforts helped lay the institutional foundation for professional standards, teacher preparation, and the integration of physical education into school curricula. Anderson's vision contributed significantly to the elevation of physical education in academic and public settings throughout the United States. As physical education began to take root in the United States in the late 1800s, educators, reformers, and institutions debated which system of physical training should become the national model. This conflict became known as the Battle of the Systems. Now, the key competing systems were the German system, or the Turnverein, again, which was founded by Frederick Jahn and emphasized rigid apparatus-based exercises, the parallel bars and the rings, and focused on strength, discipline, and nationalism. It was very popular in the German American communities. Now, the Swedish system, again, it was created by Per Henrik Ling and emphasized structured rhythmic calisthenics and focused on posture, flexibility, and therapeutic movement, and was used for corrective exercise and rehabilitation. Now, the Sargent system was developed by Dudley Allen Sargent at Harvard and combined elements of other systems with individualized exercise plans. It emphasized scientific assessment, anthropometrics, and a personalized training. The Hitchcock system was created by Edward Hitchcock at Amherst College and integrated medical science, hygiene, and exercise using data collection and empirical evaluation to monitor student health. While the Dio Lewis system, developed by Dr. Diocletian Lewis, promoted light gymnastics, gentle, inclusive activities for women and children, and combined physical activity with moral and abstinence education. Each system reflected different philosophies, goals, and target populations. The debate helped push for professional standards, teacher training, and scientific study of physical education. No single system won outright, but elements from each contributed to the modern model, which blends scientific assessment, inclusive practices, health and fitness goals, recreational and competitive athletics. The battle helped transition our physical education from informal activities to a structured academic discipline and influenced the creation of teacher training programs. The national organization like Shape America and ultimately the physical education curricula used across schools and universities today. The late 1800s marked a significant turning point in the rise of organized sport and recreational activity in the United States. As industrialization and urbanization progressed, more Americans had leisure time, and sport became an important outlet for physical activity, competition, and social engagement. Tennis, which was imported from England, gained popularity as a refined yet physically active pastime, particularly among the upper and middle classes. Golf, also of British origin, began to take root in the United States during this time, with the first official courses and clubs being established. And bowling, which is a sport with European roots that found a strong following in urban centers, especially among working class communities. And basketball. In 1891, Dr. James Naismith invented basketball at the YMCA training school in Springfield, Massachusetts. The sport was designed as an indoor activity to keep athletes fit during the winter and quickly grew in popularity across schools and communities. The National Association of Amateur Athletics of America was one of the earliest efforts to regulate amateur sport in the United States. It focused on standardizing rules and promoting ethical competition. And the American Athletic Union, or AAU, was shortly founded thereafter, becoming a powerful governing body for a wide range of amateur sports, helping to organize national competitions and support athlete development even today. Now, in 1896, there was a revival of the Olympic Games, and the modern Olympics were held in Athens, Greece, sparking global interest in sport and competition. American athletes participated and began to establish a strong presence on the world stage. This period of time from the Civil War through early 1900s, saw sport evolve from recreational activity to structured competition with codified rules, organized leagues, and growing media coverage. It laid the groundwork for the modern American sports culture, including the rise of school, collegiate, and professional athletics. As physical education gained legitimacy in the late 1800s, colleges and universities began formalizing their role in advancing the field. These institutions helped to establish dedicated departments, integrate academic study and teacher preparation, and organized athletics, advance professional standards, and elevate physical education to a recognized discipline. Now, in 1844, the YMCA, George Williams founded the first Young Men's Christian Association, or YMCA, in response to the dangerous social conditions faced by young workers. The YMCA served as a refuge that promoted Christian values, moral living, and physical health. In 1851 in Boston, Thomas Valentine Sullivan established the first USA YMCA at the Old South Church, inspired by the English model. In 1885, the YMCA Training School, now Springfield College, was founded in Springfield, Massachusetts. It became a center for training physical educators, coaches, and community leaders. Here is where Luther Gulick helped shape the curriculum, and James Naismith invented basketball in 1891. As enrollment in U.S. college grew, student interest in competitive sports surged during this time, and popular sports included rowing, football, baseball, and track and field. However, growth brought challenges of overtraining, commercialism, recruiting abuses, and lack of academic oversight. These concerns led to reforms in the formation of regulatory bodies, culminating in the establishment of the NCAA in 1906 to ensure athlete welfare and institutional accountability. Now, this period marked the institutionalization of physical education and sport in America. Universities become hubs for exercise science, physical training methods, and organized competitive sport. And the combined influence of the YMCA's values, academic programs, and intercollegiate athletics helped shape the modern American model of physical education, one that supports both recreational participation and elite athletic development. By the late 1800s, physical education in the United States had become more organized, scientifically informed, and professionally focused. The field shifted its emphasis toward teacher preparation, evidence-based practice, and the individualization of physical activity to promote health and development. There were key focus areas of teacher preparation, which colleges and normal schools, is what they were called, began offering formal training for physical education teachers, emphasizing pedagogy, which is the study of teaching, and physical training methods. And the scientific basis of physical activity was inspired by pioneers like Hitchcock, Sargent, and Fitz. Programs that incorporated anatomy, physiology, and anthropometrics to inform exercise prescription and diagnosis and prescription. Many of our physical educators began as medical doctors to evaluate students' physical condition and prescribe individualized activities to improve specific areas of health or performance. Now, if we could go back to our medical doctors prescribing activity, it would be a great thing. Organized physical education programs became more widespread in elementary and secondary schools, particularly in urban areas. And these programs typically focused on calisthenics, gymnastics, posture training, and games, often influenced by European systems of German and Swedish, and adapted to American educational goals. In 1885, the Association for the Advancement of Physical Education was founded, the forerunner of AFERD, which is the American Alliance for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, or as it's known today as SHAPE America. This organization aimed to standardize training and support research and advance the professional identity of physical educators. And they continue today to advocate and develop standards as well as for professional development. So this period laid the groundwork for physical education as a recognized profession and academic discipline, integrating the science and educational theory in public health. So in this presentation, we've discussed the development of physical education and sport in the United States from the colonial period through the end of the 19th century. We highlighted key people, institutions, and cultural movements that shaped the field. During the colonial period, of course, much of the physical activity was largely informal and tied to survival, labor, and recreation. Then you have the national period from 1784 to about 1861 that saw growing interest in structured physical education with leaders like Dr. Diocletian Lewis, who promoted health through exercise and created early training schools for physical education instructors. The Civil War through 1900s marked a shift towards scientific approaches and formalized programs with Edward Hitchcock at Amherst College and Dudley Allen Sargent at Harvard, Delphine Hanna and Amy Morris Homans and Mary Hemingway, as well as some influential European figures like Hartwig Nissen and Baron Niels Paase, and the Swedish and German gymnastics system all contributed to the American PE landscape. Luther Gulick and James Naismith, who had their innovation in school and YMCA programs and other associations. And the period also saw the emergence of intercollegiate athletics, especially football, and the revival of the Olympic Games in 1896, symbolizing sports' growing cultural role. So this concludes our discussion about the battle of the systems and philosophical and practical debate between competing models of physical education. We will continue our conversation on the latter part of well, it'll be the 1900s through current day times. I look forward to talking with you again. Have a great day.